Okay. Oh, you gotta pop your camera up.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Push on it, it'll pop up.
Oh.
And there we are. Hmm.
Oh my God. You can see yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
But I think they're recording what we say. I've never done anything like this, so. Little button there, it says recording.
Where is the little button?
Up in the, yeah, it's recording. Up in the left-hand corner.
Mine just says video preview.
Hey, there's Ricky Hill. Hey, buddy.
So hello to everyone so far. If you have not done so, please mute your mics.
Mute your mic. How do you do that?
If you're on the computer, there should be an icon on the bottom left of your microphone. If you're on a phone, it's going to depend upon the phone itself. So if you take your mouse to the lower left, you'll see a mute and a stop video and invite participants on those across the bottom. We'll wait a couple more minutes, then we'll do a roll call, and then we'll proceed. And if y'all see me fading throughout the call, I got the new flu shot yesterday, and whew, it is not fun. Hopefully you won't get a virus through the call. Little computer joke there, sorry. I got a few folks texting me saying they're trying to log in right now. Mandy, I want to confirm that you're going to continue as our scribe for this call. Hey, Vanessa.
I certainly can.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I do know of a few people like our assistant DA, John Heinzman, is out doing a murder case, so he will not be joining us today. I see Beth Booth. Mandy. Okay, and as you can see, the session starts recording automatically. And this way they said they'll take these and put them on YouTube later on for those who are not able to join us today. Right about now, we have about 23, 24 people from pretty much all 7 counties interested in being part of the drug court process. And so I do see on the computer screen where all the names are, so I've taken the roll and roster by that. Is there anybody joining us on the telephone who's not showing up? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and continue. As you've seen the emails, and I'm very good about sending out emails, probably sometimes too many emails, but it's the easiest way to keep you informed, seeing how we are scattered across 7 counties. It's not like we can get together every week and sit down face to face, all 22 of us. So I do apologize if it gets to be too much, but at least you know exactly what I know and what's going on in the whole process. This way we're all informed, and that way if for some reason the more I break my leg, anybody else can pick up and take over. So that's why I try to do my best to keep you informed. That way we all know and are on the same page. A update as of this morning, I did find out from the lady Yolanda Woodhouse at NC Courts in Raleigh that Judge Walker has spoken to her. And so I will connect with him to see what that conversation was about and what the next steps are with them. Because in the conversation, actually this week with Senator Davis, he did say that not 1, but 4 new drug courts are pending, and he said they're scattered. He didn't give me a location. I already knew about Haywood County, but he said that the 4 are kind of scattered across North Carolina. So I'm assuming Haywood is still the closest one to us. The other 3 are going to be farther east or down east somewhere, but he did not confirm that. He did say that the judicial side through the state budget pays for those positions. So like the judge, the prosecutor, the clerk, anybody that is on the side of the court system that's a state employee would be paid by the state budget. He did also indicate that anything outside of that is not paid by the state. So this is why I feel it would be helpful for us to start visiting some of these other drug courts, or at least talking to them and finding out their process. Because if they're having to come up with for-profits, nonprofits, other organizations for the program side of their drug court, then apparently we have to do the same thing also being in North Carolina. So we're talking about treatment programs, counseling programs, mentoring, peer support, those kind of options. So we need to find out what those programs are, what they look like, and if there's any kind of uniformity in the drug court process from the state requiring certain things be in place, and it may even require certain credentials for this to be qualified to count for a drug court process. In a recent visit to the Enoto Drug Court over in Union County, now they're a little bit different, but somewhat similar. They are fortunate that their governor a few years ago decided that the drug problem was a statewide problem and that the state should take care of it. So he provided statewide grants through the state of Georgia for organizations all across Georgia to do drug courts. They still have state employees like the judge and the DA who are part of that, but outside of that, they've actually set up a nonprofit process whereby when the person is assigned to drug court, they go to this nonprofit entity and they take them for 18 to 24 months through the drug court process for graduation. I don't know if that similar concept is going to work here, but again, thinking about what questions do we have and what answers do we need to work it out here in the 7-county area. Now, there's also the possibility in talking to Judge Walker that we may only get 1 because he's understaffed. And Senator Davis did say judge staffing is based upon the state budget. So I can't think of any way around that. And Senator Davis was not very talkative about that. He just said that we pay for the judge and they're part of the state. So that may be, I know Judge Walker has indicated he's short 2 judges right now with the current caseload. So it may mean that they assign one of the judges in our district to be the the court judge or drug court judge, and that as they go to the various counties, we may have to set up these kind of programs in each individual county. So one judge proceeds over drug court, but each county would have the drug court program locally. Because of your resources, your staffing, your personnel, that's why this may be one option. But again, until I can get a hold of Yolanda in Raleigh and then Judge Walker to verify, but that's kind of what the Judge Walker indicated that it may take to happen. So with all that said, any questions so far on anything? And if you're going to talk, be sure to unmute your microphone. We all good to go? Okay. All right. Well, be thinking about, and again, Mandy is taking our notes, and thank you, Mandy, again for doing that. What kind of questions do we have if we go to another drug court process that would help us get organized here? And this is where you guys speak back to me. Feedback, conversation. I see the heads bobbing, but come on. We've got to work together on this.
This is Beth. Do we have to have the infrastructure in place for the resources before drug court gets going? So in other words, if you're going to refer them to a recovery program, does that recovery program already have to be established? Or can you be establishing those resources as drug court is getting off the ground?
That's a good question, and I have no answer. So Mandy, be sure and write that one down.
What would be the first step
Another good question.
we need to do? Like
Okay.
in Haywood County, what can we do the first thing to start the process?
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to please, thank you for sharing, but please pause between the questions to give Mandy time to get everything down. And Mandy, if you need somebody to repeat something, be sure and let us know. All right, Vanessa, I see you thinking. Come on now.
I was thinking about what he said about the first step, and that too was like in my head, you know, other than what we're doing here as far as gathering that useful information, what comes next? And as far as rehab facilities, I know as our sheriff's office, we reach out through the involuntary commitment process, and we're touching a lot of the rehab facilities that are throughout the region. So it's not just here, it's definitely not here in Graham County at all, but rehab facilities throughout the region. So those may be places to start to touch base with and contact as far as, you know, what outlets we might already have established and available for our use.
Okay, good question. And on that note, I will kind of share a little bit, and I'll kind of fill in the gaps so Mandy has time to get stuff down. An example would be over in another drug court over in Union County. When they have the drug court there, they actually limit people's ability to be mobile. So if they get assigned to drug court during the process, 18, 24 months, without special permission, they're only allowed to go to Union or Towns County, nowhere else. So that's going to be something that we have to figure out. If we have resources that are beyond certain boundaries, how do we access those resources? So that's why I was saying it may take having to have resources for Graham County, maybe next door in Cherokee County, and that be your boundary. And here in Clay County, it may be Clay and Macon or Clay and Cherokee. So those are the kind of things that we'll figure out as we go through the process. But good question. Anybody else?
Ricky, thanks for your work. As you were going over some of the items earlier in the call, I was just thinking about identifying some of those opportunities where you can continue. Lake Janaluska is coming up. I mean, I'm going to be there, and it would certainly be a good opportunity to kind of tap into the recovering community and see how they would want to support it county to county in regards to peer support, mentoring, other items along that line. So, I mean, September is going to be a very, very busy month in the recovering community. So I would definitely like to maybe coordinate that aspect. I'm going to be there, and maybe it's just as easy as, you know, having a sign-up sheet and seeing who might be interested in continuing to build your base, so to speak. Now I've lost.
The sound has quit.
Thank you. I can't hear anybody.
Sorry.
There you
I
are.
forgot to unmute. I say that flu shot's kicking my fanny. Woo. Anyway, Tom brought up a good point about the event in Lake Junaluska, and we'll get more information about that. But does anybody know about any other summits, meetings, seminars, webinars? Because it may be that not everybody in our group can attend every single one, but 2 or 3 can attend each of these and then report back to us. I know example, last year I went to the CADCA, which is the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America. Actually, my first year, I found it overwhelming because it was so massive, but tons of information. And I'm part of the WNC Harm Reduction with Stephanie Alameda, and the NC Impact with Kelly Teague and all that group. So the more we can connect with organizations like this might be helpful. I don't know what everybody's level of knowledge or experience of drug court is, but collectively, if we all attend these things and gain knowledge together, then collectively, we're going to be a lot better off. So as you hear about summits and seminars, be sure and send the information to my way, and I'll get it back out to everybody. Okay. Any other questions? And if you think of a question later on, after the call is over, be sure and email it to me. We'll compile a list and get it back out. Because we do have 2 options right now for drug court visits, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, which will be next Friday, if anybody's interested, and then Buncombe County. Buncombe County actually has, and I sent the email, has the 2 drug courts, the drug treatment court and then the veterans treatment court. And so because of the status of the people, they are treated a little bit differently. And so what they recommended is maybe some go to drug treatment and some go to veteran treatment. What they said in the email, if you didn't catch everything, is they actually have what they call a staffing meeting prior to the court session. So they sit down and go over case by case by case. The judge is there, the treatment program is there. And when I say treatment, I'm referring to things like maybe they're going through counseling, maybe they're having courses they have to go through, emotional counseling or stress management or whatever it may be that's relative to their situation. Law enforcement is there, and they all talk about how this person is progressing. And then when they go into the court, the judge actually presides over the court. It's a formal court. Everybody's sworn in, and they, walk in, and the judge goes over everybody's individual case and then tells them their next process in the case. So that's what she was talking about, that staffing meeting where and it's just the staff. Now, interestingly, and again, in Georgia, they actually have officers assigned to the drug court called surveillance officers. And the person, when they go into drug court, they waive their 4th Amendment. And so that surveillance officer can call that person and say, hey, what are you doing? Where are you? Well, I'm at work. Good, I'm on my way. And they can show up 24/7, 365, as long as the person's in the program, and spot check that the person is doing what they're supposed to, where they're supposed to, and they're not exposed to anything they shouldn't be exposed to. Example would be they actually give them a list of over-the-counter products they cannot have, i.e. mouthwash. It has alcohol. People in the drug court cannot have mouthwash. And there are certain toothpaste, certain deodorants, anything that has an alcohol base in it, they cannot have in their possession, in their home, or be around it. And this is what that officer checks on to make sure the person is staying in compliance. When I went to the court over there, I actually saw this, when they talked about this, and then they went to the graduation afterwards. And one young man, actually, who is from Hayesville, was actually caught over in Georgia, arrested in Georgia for drug use charges, and actually had to go to drug court in Georgia, which meant he had to leave his family here in Hayesville, go over there for 2 months and be away from his family, and couldn't see them because he couldn't transport back and forth. But when he graduated, the DA said, and one thing that we do is when a person does a great job, we look at their record, and if they maintain all the standards throughout drug court, he goes, their record is clean. He goes, young man, your record is clean. The judge just signed off of it. You've been expunged. And he wiped everything clean. And so that was kind of neat to see that. So we have to figure those kind of things out as well. So, but again, they discussed those things in that staffing meeting.
What about probation? Have you, like everything you just described is what the probation officers do. So when they get sentenced to drug court, deviate them or take them away from probation so the probation doesn't have any responsibility for them anymore?
That is my understanding for the Georgia process. And again, until we start talking about drug courts here in North Carolina, they may require law enforcement to stay involved as law enforcement, or they could be reassigned as law enforcement to the drug court process. Until I can get more details from Raleigh, I don't have all the answers on that. But again, these are questions that we can ask when we visit these other drug courts. CJ, I can't hear you. Unmute. No, go ahead. Oh. All right. Anybody else? Can you go ahead?
And it's Rick again. We're in the same office, me and CJ, and her computer isn't working right. So she asked me to ask you why we don't have a drug court in Haywood, because we're the biggest county. So
Well, they said the district.
the district is the biggest.
Right.
So big, and there might be a chance we might not get it because we have, I think, 7 counties here.
Well, according to Senator Davis, it is in the budget at this moment, and I spoke to Sheriff Christopher. It's currently in the current state budget to be approved to have Haywood County Drug Court. But that's in the budget, pending approval, pending money. So, which is interesting, why it's just Haywood County and not Judge Walker's district for the district court. That I haven't found the answer to yet. Nobody's told me why Haywood was selected out. So I'm going to call Sheriff Christopher and speak to him and find out details on that. All right, Rick, relate to us.
It might be because we're the most populated.
Did you hear that?
I thought you said most popular or populated.
She said it might be because we're the most populated. And
Yeah.
I do got another question about that, because me and Sheriff Christopher talked about this a little bit, that we might be eligible to get 4 to 5 ankle monitors, the new ones that do the alcohol and drug monitoring. Has that been brought up at all?
That's the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
So,
We're
and
shooting
I
for that.
yeah, and again, Haywood County being a large county population-wise, you're going to have more resources available to you than Clay or Graham or Cherokee. So I guess it's depending upon location. But again, good question to ask. Now, the question I would also ask, is that a requirement of drug court, or is that an option that Haywood County would like to add locally? Because I'd imagine those things aren't cheap.
No, they're not. We were looking at it as a requirement, you know, just to entice somebody to get it passed here in Haywood County. We thought that would be a good point if we banked, 4 or 5 of them ourselves to pitch in. So
Okay.
this was a conversation we had 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
We also have an annex here that we might be able to possibly use for something. And I say might possibly. There's 42 beds there for people that are incarcerated. So that might be something we can talk about too.
Yeah. Now, when you say incarcerated, so I'm assuming they're already in jail. And again, remembering drug court is possibly a way to prevent them having to go to jail. And so as an alternative. Now, this will be something maybe in your different locations. If we could start gathering some data, because I don't know for Graham County compared to Clay County, compared to Cherokee, compared to Haywood, what the cost is. So if we could start finding out that what kind of time it takes and what kind of cost it takes, a sheriff goes out and makes an arrest. They have to come back in, they got a process, they put them in jail, there's a period of waiting. So what does that time in jail cost per day for that person before they get to the judge? So they now go to the judge sentences them, they go back to jail or back to prison, wherever it may be, depending upon the charge, before they can be released in 6 months, a year, 2 years. What is that cost? And then as we start talking to the drug court programs, finding out what their cost is, comparing that to being incarcerated as compared to the cost of drug court. I keep hearing, but I haven't seen dollar signs yet, that there is a dramatic cost reduction for drug court. So.
Well, I know one of our biggest things here at this jail is the FTAs that they keep getting, and it's a revolving door. You get sentenced, or you don't get sentenced, you get charged with a court. You don't show up for court, you get an FTA. They come back and get arrested, and they just get released right away, and it's an ongoing cycle for these people. So that could eliminate a lot of that.
Okay, clarify FTA, please.
Failure to appear.
Ah.
And right now, if you get a failure to appear here, you'll get released within 48 hours generally, and then they just get it again, and they keep coming back and back. It's a revolving door right now.
So I can be charged with something, not show up, get released, and that sounds kind of strange.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Uh-huh.
They just don't show up. So that's something we're trying to alleviate here, and I think drug court might help that.
Ah, okay. Well, I mean, if they don't show up for their court date, realizing that's the potential of going to jail, if we don't have something as stiff as, if not even more stiffer, for punishment or fines in drug court, you know, we need to have that carrot dangling in front of them. Yeah, and I know most places I've talked to so far, the carrot is having their records expunged. You know, a person realizes, hey, I can have a criminal charge or I can have no criminal charge, makes them more marketable and employable down the road, and it looks better on their record. So that to me may be the key. And realizing that if they don't pass drug court, they go back to jail, they go back to be charged and prosecuted and tried and found guilty of the original charge. So yeah, I know over in Union County, they actually tell me that some people will elect to go to jail because jail's easier than drug court. So we got to have that same mentality. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? I know we're a little bit early, but with a small group, it's easy to get done a little bit faster. And again, if you got any questions about going to the two programs, and again, what I'm trying to do is not have just one or two people do everything. We got 20-some people on our list. I want to share the wealth. So if you can sign up for going to Cherokee County, and I think a couple of you already have, if you can look at the dates and calendar for Buncombe County and sign up for that, that'll be great. And as we start gathering this, if you do these things, I want to ask you to take copious notes, come back and report back out to the group so that even though you may be the only one to go, the whole group gets the knowledge of your experience. So we've got to be a strong team to make this happen. Okay, Rick, unmute your mic so I can hear CJ.
I'd like to know what some of the other counties are doing with their drug situations. I mean, is there some kind of, like, we're peer support specialists in here, you know, working with them and bringing recovery to jails and getting them into rehabs and stuff. Is anybody else doing that?
Vanessa, Beth, can you talk about what's going on in Graham?
It's something we're getting off the ground right now. We've sent two to peer support training, and they've still got to do their 40 hours of continuing ed or whatever it is. We received, along with Clay County, the $1 million grant through AMCHC, and that's going to further train some more people. We also have another grant that's running alongside that that's probably going to also incorporate peer support. We have some other things that are trying to get off the ground with like a crisis center and stuff like that, but that's part of the reason I asked whether or not the drug court would allow you to have things that are getting off the ground versus things that are established, because none of it has been established yet. It's all in the works and trying to get off the ground.
Everything that we have here in the county as far as, you know, outlets for drug use, and it's Appalachian. That's all we have. It's not a really good system. We do outsource to the DART program. A lot of times I've seen probation do that pretty often and use the DART program if, you know, the person meets certain criteria. So they do X amount of days in the DART program, which is like a detox center. I want to say it's out in Black Mountain. But other than that, there's really not much here for people to grab a hold of and have that support system, have that, you know, help that's going to be there. You don't have to drive 4 hours or, you know, go be institutionalized, because other than that, a lot of the IVCs that we have are drug users. They're habitual drug users, and they get IVC'd and they get sent away for 3 days, a week, whatever, and then here they come right back. And it's just a revolving door. While they might not be criminal offenders, we've just found them wandering the streets high out of their mind. So we take them, we commit them, they come back, they start at it again, we take them, we commit them. It's a horrible waste of time, in my opinion.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Rick, unmute your mic. I can't hear CJ.
CJ asked if you guys were all open to bringing 12-step meetings in your jail and doing stuff like that.
If your people are, like the sheriffs and deputies and things like that.
Are you, the sheriff supporting it, your deputies and all that, bringing the meetings in the jail?
That's a good question. Beth, go ahead.
We have the 12-step program. Vanessa can verify this with me. We actually have a 12-step program in the jail right now. Mike Teen goes and does it. And Appalachian actually goes there, I think, once a month. And then NC Works goes there too.
Appalachian's there every Wednesday.
Okay. Now, I know in Clay and Cherokee, we have what we call rock bottom recovery. It's not a 12-step meeting, but it is a program started by a lady who actually hit rock bottom herself and realized it was going to be get clean or be in the graveyard. And so she basically turned her life around, and she goes to the jails in, I think, Clay County on Friday and Cherokee County on Saturday. Now, for coalitions in Clay County, we're in the process of revitalizing it. I don't know how many of you realize that actually about 11 years ago, we had a 7-county coalition, and each county had a local coalition in that county, and there was a regional director that was over all 7 counties, and it was grant funded. And so they were doing coalition work 11 years ago. Obviously, grant funded, grant ran out, a lot of the coalitions shut down. I think the only one that kept going for the past 11 years is Cherokee County and Jenny Irwin over there. But she has emailed and said that she has enough money for 1 more year, and she is in the process of doing a closeout report. So unless something happens, Cherokee County will be closing its coalition program. So this is some of the things we face is how do we get resources when we don't have money? How do we get money in our rural location? How do we build an infrastructure that supports all of us? So speaking of infrastructure, that's something somebody mentioned. Start writing down the resources you are currently using in your backyard. Let's put together a resource directory because there may be something you're using in Haywood County that I'm not aware of that I might be able to get here in Clay or Cherokee, or maybe send people to you. So that's one thing we need to look into is what are the current resources we actually have on the ground. And looking at some of the grants, I've seen there are grants that cover both sides, grants that only do startup new programs, and grants that look at existing programs. So how do you strengthen and expand them to something more? So depending on what we have, it's also the kind of money we can get. And I think, Tom, I'm going to see if this is right. You have mentioned before you'd be willing to do some grant research work for us.
Yeah, it's not my area of expertise, but as you talk, like I look and certainly I'm finding out more about people. I know Dogwood Health Trust was at the summit. I mean, these are the types of resources to bring into play and at least have the conversations. And without detracting from the value of bringing 12-step meetings into
We lost you again, Tom.
prison, which I'm absolutely an advocate. Oh, am I back?
Yeah, it's coming and going.
Okay. Without detracting from the value of bringing 12-step meetings into the jail, isn't the focus or our overall approach to minimize any length of stay in a detention or incarceration? That's the overall focus of the treatment courts or drug courts.
Well, again, in reading the information I have on drug court, it is actually 3 processes. First and foremost, the person has committed a criminal act. Second of all, there is the potential of reoccurring criminal acts. And third, they have a serious drug problem. So the purpose of drug court is to intervene before they are actually found guilty and go to jail. They can be diverted to drug court. So the drug court, there would not be any kind of incarceration, my understanding, for the duration of the drug court. They would be in a treatment program where they have peer support, mentoring, coaching, things like that, probation check-ins, court check-ins. So there would not be incarceration in the drug court process. Does anybody have a different? Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, that was
Sorry.
my understanding.
All right. Go ahead, Rick. Rick, go ahead.
Well, we have a lot of stuff here in the jail at Haywood, and that's not our biggest problem. Our biggest problem, like what Vanessa was talking about, we don't have hardly any treatment centers here in Haywood County that are going to take the influx of people that drug court would produce. We're already having a hard enough time getting people from the jail to any kind of treatment center. One, they don't have money and they don't have insurance. So that alone eliminates 90% of the treatment centers here. A lot of these guys don't have Medicaid, so right now we're using First at Blue Ridge. Very rarely we'll send somebody to Trosa, which is in the Tri-County area, and there's a couple spots here and there, but other than that, we're struggling just to find where to send our people.
Okay,
it's a year now. So
all right. When you say treatment, clarify treatment, Rick.
Well, we have, that would be inpatient, like PHP treatment. We do have IOP stuff here in Waynesville. We've got Meridian and Appalachia, but that has proved to be very ineffective, at least in a year experience for the people that are getting out of jail. We need something a little more intense, which means we need privateers coming in with some kind of sober housing, a different private IOP possibly. Right now we're being overwhelmed by the Suboxone, stuff. So that's a whole nother issue that we're facing. And I know we all got different opinions, so I won't go there, but
Yeah.
Those are just, we really need people outside of the jail, where we're going to send them, where are they going to go? And the judge says, hey, you need to go to this IOP, where do we send them? So that's the problem right now.
Well, that's good information to have, realizing, I mean, if you are the largest county and you are limited resources and you're fixing to get a drug court in your backyard, how's it going to work? So I guess we're all going to keep an eye on you guys and see if you succeed or fail and, you know, see what happens, but we'll do our best to support you. You do bring up some good points about that. Now, in the research that I've done, again, I've just been reading manuals and reports, best practices. Also, well, and I'm also working with the North Carolina, our National Association of Drug Court Professionals, trying to get Terrence out here to be a speaker for us, who's the CEO. So I'm trying to do some research on this. But when they say treatment, it is not necessarily going to be any kind of inpatient or anything like that. Treatment in the drug court context may be going to a meeting, like a 12-step meeting, but also sitting down with a counselor who's asking them, well, what are you doing? How are you doing? You know, what are you doing to help yourself? What is your support system? You know, what would you do if you're faced with something again? How would you handle the stress? And, and then assigning a coach or a mentor to work with that person. It's also teaching them life skills. Maybe they've had some bad connections with family, so they help mend those bridges. Maybe they don't have good job skills, so it's getting them job training. So treatment in the term of drug court is beyond just the medical side of it. It is that wrap around, walking the journey for 18 to 24 months, getting this person back to being a viable citizen in the community. So that's what they say treatment is in drug court. Does that make more sense? Okay. All right. Anybody have any closing comments? Anything else? I'm kind of fading myself, so I guess it's okay, you guys, if we end a few minutes early. Any problems with that? Now, again, send me your questions, and I'm going to be emailing everybody else who wasn't here asking for their questions, and also reminding people to sign up for Cherokee Tribe Drug Court and then Buncombe County. We also have others that as we get these questions together, I'll be asking individuals on the team to contact, not necessarily because going down east, unless you want to go to Elizabeth City, go to the coast and have some seafood and walk on the beach, maybe make a phone call might work. Who knows? A trip to Wilmington, maybe, try to make it sound nice so you'll volunteer. So we'll work on that as well. And again, my goal is to make this a team effort that all 22 of us work together, are involved, to participate, bring something to the table collectively, because as we stand united, that's going to be a feather in our cap, working with Judge Walker, Senator Davis, Representative Corbin, and whoever else we got to deal with, Sheriff Christopher, anybody else that we need. If we show we have a united front, they're going to say, oh, wow, these guys are organized, ready. Let's take them serious. And so I want this to work for all of us. All right. What is your availability? Do you like to have a call 2 weeks? Do you want to go a month to give us time to kind of put things together? I need to hear feedback before we hang up.
Just real quick, Ricky, I want to say that I do have contacts down in Leland. He was with our department. He's now with the department down there. I've spoke with him about what we're doing here with the drug court. They do have a drug court going down there. He says it's working wonderfully for him. So I could get feedback there. I also am scheduled for a training in Salemsburg, November. Mm-hmm. So if I could catch a court going down in Wilmington, a day or so before or after my training, I would be glad to pop in and check it out. I think Wilmington's like an hour and a half away. Yeah.
Leland is south of Wilmington, just before you turn left to go to Oak Island. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've been there a few times, and it's a terrible place to be. Just kidding. No, it's beautiful down there.
Sure.
So yeah, got some really good seafood down there, especially on Oak Island. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about that beach is not that touristy, so it's not that crowded.
That'd be nice.
Okay. So 2 weeks or a month for our next call? So I see CJ a month. I see. Okay.
I opt for a month, honestly.
Okay. All right. That'll work then. Because, I know the court dates for Buncombe County are the 1st and middle of September. So that'll work out for us that way to be the end of September for our next call. I'll look at the calendar and try to get a date. Is morning or afternoon better for most of you?
Morning.
Morning?
Either.
Morning.
Either?
Morning.
Morning. CJ, yes or no? Morning? Morning. Okay, good. So morning time is what I say. Okay, we'll go with that. Before we end out, Mandy, do you have anything you need clarified for our notes and comments before we disconnect? Mandy, did you go get a hamburger? All right. Well, I don't know what happened to Mandy. Mandy, if you're talking, be sure and unmute your microphone. Okay, at this time it is 11:40. It is a few minutes early, but we'll go ahead and disconnect. Thank you folks for being here. Thank you for your comments. Again, any additional questions we need to ask, go ahead and send them in. Vanessa, go ahead and make contact with your person in Leland, and then we'll go from there. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.